Town Council continues work on the fiscal 15 capital budget at its meeting this week. Details on this episode of Barnstable This Morning. It's Friday, April 18th, 2014. I'm Sarah Mannel. Town Council this week made progress on approvals for the fiscal 2015 capital budget. The council heard presentations and held public hearings on capital plans for administrative services, growth management, police, regulatory services, and community services. One item on the agenda that generated much discussion was over the acceptance of a $233,000 state grant that would fund town-owned land on Pleasant Street in Hyannis that would put a park there. Many councilors raised concerns about the town spending $190,000 in matching funds for the project, including Town Council Vice President Ann Kennedy.
But I believe we own this parcel, and I think we paid over a couple $1 million for it. Wasn't it an eminent domain taking that we paid a little more than we thought we were going to have to pay? And I think that, a park in the future is not a bad idea. And your presentation was very excellent, and I know there's a lot of work gone into this, and the application for the grant's taken a couple years. However, I agree with what I've heard before from previous counselors, and that is right now we're looking at a whole agenda of priorities that go from cleaning up ponds to fixing, dredging and fixing bridges. And I see this is going to have an impact in future DPW budgets as far as maintenance. I'd like DPW to be spending their time fixing our roads right now, which are in very bad shape, and I think we're like $28 million in backed projects for DPW. So I also am of the mind that a reason I voted for this against this a couple years ago is that, again, I agree with the idea of taking this harbor to the west of the harbor, up to the Calmus Beach. These are things that we own Calmus, we're enhancing Veterans Beach. This is what the residents use, Calmus, and veterans. And I have heard people from that neighborhood asking for improvements in the parking, in the sidewalks, etc. I just think right now this is just a misplaced or maybe a premature or just a not right now project. And I won't be supporting it tonight.
Town Councilor Paul Hebert disagreed with Kennedy and argued in favor of the project.
I personally went down, sat there. I didn't have the cup of coffee, but it was a very pleasant afternoon just sitting down there, and despite the fact that it was cold. I think the presentation, Joanne, is magnificent. Think of coming in on the Steamship Authority, whether you're going out or coming in, and looking on the port side of that steamship and looking at that parcel as it stands right now. And the impression, and again, I vacation in Newport, in Plymouth. I tend to go to the sea towns, and those are towns, Boston, we just saw the proposals for the floating dock. That's our sign. And what somebody's looking at is a sign of a town that doesn't think a whole lot about themselves. And so this is an opportunity to use some money from the state to put out our sign that says we are a wonderful town with a terrific history, that most people are going to say, it was okay, but that is our walkway. That greets thousands and thousands of tourists every year, let alone Mr. Cronin vacationing down there and having a place to go to. So I appreciate our concern about the money. But I think that this would be a case. If we vote this down, we are really pinching pennies. And that's not going to solve some of our other problems. So I consider myself very conservative fiscally. But I'm very concerned about, as you walk up School Street, we got crumbling sidewalks there and stuff that I think is part of how we greet people that come to our village. So, and I think the people of Hyannis deserve this park.
Ultimately, the council rejected the $233,000 state grant for park construction, with 9 councilors voting against the plan and 3 voting in favor. Town Council approved spending $170,000 to make improvements to the town's bicycle accommodation program. Director of Growth Management Joanne Miller-Buntich described the project.
And so their first request, and we agreed together on sort of 3 routes, excuse me. And the first route is before you tonight, called the South Coast Bike Route. And so the program brings forward through the map that you have there, an on-road accommodation for cyclists that will include stripings and signage, bike racks at villages and beaches, and just sort of the other things that need to go along with that kind of a project. So it doesn't adjust any infrastructure. It uses the infrastructure that's there, just adds the accommodations that the cyclists need. So it travels all the way from southern Cotuit up through the village of Cotuit, up through the village of Marston's Mills. That's their preferred route. They go through the 2 newly signaled intersections up through the village and back down again to Osterville, across the coast there, and they have some other loops that they take along the way. To Centerville and the Craigville area, and then along those beaches through Hyannisport, and then up C Street. And so obviously this is the very first one. There's other branches and all of those things that we'll look at later, some within the context of existing proposed roadway improvements. They identified 2 other sort of north-south routes. One we call the north side route, which travels up Finney's and Hyannis Road, up to Barnstable Harbor, and the other one travels up Old Stage and Meeting House Way up to Navigation, because everybody agrees that that's just one of the prettiest places there are.
Town Council passed that measure with 10 councilors voting in favor and 2 voting against. Town Council also approved spending $393,000 to make improvements to the Marston's Mills Fish Run. Dan Santos talked about the project before the vote. Dan Santos is the director of the Department of Public Works.
River herring are a vital link in the food chain and a very important part of our ecosystem, both our freshwater river, freshwater inland ponds, and the coastal saltwater environment. They've been under pressure from development, from overcatch, from a variety of things for decades. They've been around for millennia prior to people even being here, and in fact have been a very important historical and cultural and economic aspect of life on Cape Cod for as long as people have been here. As I mentioned, they're under enormous pressures because of loss of habitat and because of failure and problems with the fish runs in many communities, including in Barnstable. The first project, the Marston's Mills Fish Run, is replacing a failing structure that's about 1,100 feet long that runs from Middle Pond to the Marston's Mills River. Here's some photographs of the condition it's in. It takes enormous volunteer effort and quite a bit of money every year just to limp it along so that the herring can use it to get up to Middle Pond for their spawning and back out in the early fall, the fry.
The council voted unanimously to support that project. Additional community service items, public works, and airport projects will take place at the May 1st council meeting. Be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On Tuesday's show, we'll talk to Police Chief Paul McDonald, Department of Public Works Director Dan Santos, and we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.